Hey team, and welcome. I'm your host, Carrie, creator of Mother Life, your destination for all things real talk and parenting. This is the IRL group chat, where we talk about the wild balancing act of pursuing careers and passions while also doing our best to show up for our kids. Join me every week as I sit down with some badass parents in my closet and we talk about their careers, kids, and relationships and all of the weird shit that comes up when you're trying to balance the seemingly impossible. Hey team, and welcome to this week's solo pod. I am keeping it real. If you are watching any of this on video, you're going to see my crazy hair that the blowout has now dyed. I tried to hold on to it as long as I could. I used the dry shampoo, but like if a girl's going to gym and a girl's going to be gross and a girl's got a toddler that's going to put applesauce in their hair, like we're just not going to last the full 7 days that I was promised, but that's okay. We've got like a little bit of a shag. I told my hairdresser that if I ever tell her I want a bob, have me committed. I don't mean it. I also asked her why my hair texture was changing. It feels a lot coarser. And she was just like, those are the grays. The grays are coarser and they change the overall texture of your hair. So it's not your hormones or whatever. It's probably the stress that gave you a bunch of gray hair. So just another fun little tidbit of aging. I'm talking to you as a 40-year-old woman who has delayed the start of my birthday celebration to a date not yet disclosed or agreed upon. But there's a lot to talk about today. Things I have been taking notes on that I want to talk to you guys about, and things that you messaged me that you wanted me to wax poetic about. So let's see what happens. This is not scripted. I've just got notes of different topics to discuss. I would say the top question I have received lately is, hey, how are you? And depending on who you are, and who you are could be most people, I'll cry when you ask me that question, but I am genuinely doing a lot better than I was even like a week ago. We're sort of, what are we? What's today's date? We are almost a month into the loss of my wonderful stepdad Lloyd, and I'm doing better overall. And I think there's a couple of reasons why, and a couple of things to nuance about that. First, I did a very important thing. I was like barreling toward going on this trip that I had planned for my birthday. I was going to London by myself for a week to see all my friends that live there. And I was like, I'm just going to go no matter what. Like, a lot of those people had met him at different points and they knew him, and I feel really close and safe with those people, and I thought it would be a good idea. And the more and more I kind of meditated on it, really up until like 3 days before I was supposed to go, I realized that for me to go on such a special trip, I haven't been away from my kids for a full week since either of them were born. It just didn't feel like the right time. And I knew that I needed some time and space to do something else, but I didn't want this entire special trip to be everyone looking at me like a sad sack asking me how I am all the time. Like, I wanted to be able to be silly and laugh freely and whatever. And so I decided to postpone the trip, which I immediately felt good about the minute I changed the dates of the flights to go. But instead, I did go by myself to the desert for 2 nights, which is something I've never done before. And I stayed at this amazing place with lots of natural hot springs. And I basically didn't talk to another human being for 2 days. And it was a really valuable experience. I didn't know how I was going to feel or what I was going to do besides get a massage and hang out in the hot springs and read my book. And right before I left, a good friend of mine, Austin, who lost her dad, I guess almost 2 years ago, said to me, this is what you got to do. You need to take notes. Nobody ever has to read what you write, but just write your feelings down and listen to music that reminds you of him and do things that make you think of him and consciously make the choice to engage with the idea that he's not here anymore. she kind of gave me like a grief pep talk in a way that was actually really helpful. She gave me some poetry that she had written and published, and that was a really good starting point. And I went to yoga on my first morning there. There was just like a yoga class there. And at the end, when, you know, everyone's in child's pose, AKA I'm trying to take a nap, some acoustic music came on and my eyes just immediately welled up. And I was like, okay, I need to like go take some time. So I had the space, because I was by myself, to take like 2 hours to listen to all of his favorite music and to sob and ugly cry and write in my journal. And I couldn't have done that if I was home with my whole family thinking about what was for lunch and what I was going to pack. And even if my husband was like carrying the lion's share of the work during that time, like it still wouldn't have made a difference. Like the space and the time was really valuable. So I'm so glad I did that. And it also just made me realize like I should be doing that regularly regardless of loss. Taking time for myself, especially when I don't think I need it, because I often am like, I'm good, I'm fine. I shouldn't have to be running on fumes to take the time for myself. Like, what a luxury it was to be at a restaurant at the hotel and just order whatever the fuck I want on the menu, not thinking about my husband's food allergies or preferences, not thinking about my kids, like just ordering what I wanted. And yes, I could technically do that all the time, but I'm not wired like that. I am thinking about everybody around me, and it was really nice to have that opportunity to just sit and read a book and not have to make small talk, not ask a question, answer a question, not have a kid outside the bathroom door while I'm peeing, whatever. It was really good. So I think there was a broader lesson in there for me about just trying to make more of a conscious effort to take time for myself and like by myself. I'm a hard extrovert, and I was surprised by how much I needed and wanted that time alone, craved that time alone. I even did something pretty wild. I stopped at the outlets. There's a huge outlet mall on the way out to the desert. And like, I didn't really buy anything, but I just walked around and ate some like food court Chinese food, and the whole thing felt so silly and fun. Like there was no point to me doing it whatsoever. There was no purpose, but it was just the idea that I had nowhere to be and nobody that needed me. It was wonderful. So that was great. And the other thing that I realized is, and a lot of you are much better about this than me, like just listening to the music that I want to listen to, and how emotionally profound and evocative that music can be. Like listening to my stepdad's favorite music at top volume, screaming at the top of my lungs in the car with the windows down, like what a freeing experience. Not a K-pop Demon Hunter song in sight. It was really wonderful. The other things that I've observed is like, and I think I've mentioned this previously, I can't remember, is this horrible club of like the Dead Parents Club. I am finding great comfort in talking to people who have lost parents, even if I don't know them that well. It becomes this like sudden, instant connection with strangers in a way. Not because they have words of great comfort, but because they kind of know not to bother and to just tell you that it sucks and that they're sorry. And they're not actually trying to fix you or find a silver lining. They just know what you're going through, and they know that it sucks, and they are, not to be too Ariana cliche, they're holding space for you. That's a Wicked thing, right? Yeah, they're just holding the space for you without trying to fix you. And I think that has been really nice and really helpful. Even my gynecologist the other day, we're going to get to that visit in a minute, but like she lost her dad a couple of years ago, and we were talking about that, and it's still fresh for her. Like her eyes welled up, and I felt so safe right before she gave me that pap smear, talking to her about this hard point in my life. And I felt so seen and supported. And so that's been something that I guess I didn't really expect. The other thing that I didn't expect is somebody had said to me, like, I was really well prepared for the big milestone moments, like a parent's birthday or an anniversary or whatever, walking down the aisle without my dad there. I was kind of prepared for those things, but there's lots of weird like micro moments and triggers that I haven't expected. So for instance, for those of you who watch Bridgerton, this latest season, there's a storyline that involves grief, and that, like, Bridgerton's making me tear up. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, it's just like really plucking on the heartstrings in a way, because it does feel raw and fresh. Or the other night, an elderly neighbor, the ambulance came to check on them and take them to the hospital for something, and I was just sobbing in my window. Like, it was just like there are all these triggers sitting right below the surface still that I'm sure will dull over time, but right now when it's fresh, it's just like walking through a minefield every day. I don't know what's going to catch me off guard. So if you are somebody who hasn't lost a parent before, or hasn't lost somebody like deeply meaningful to you in your life, and if I may, from less than a month out, give you some advice, I would just say, don't try and make somebody feel better. Don't give them a silver lining. Just let them feel like shit. Send them food. That's helpful. But like, just don't try and make them feel better. Don't find the silver lining. Just say, I'm so sorry and I'm thinking about you, because you can't really say anything else. And if you have experienced loss, just know that like your pain and your grief actually is a superpower for helping other people through something horrible, if that's something you want to do. It also doesn't have to be if you don't feel like being fucking helpful. You don't have to. I got a question about like, how did I talk to my kids about their grandfather passing away? And I was really open with them, and especially the 5.5-year-old. He is so perceptive and so smart that when I said I needed to go check on grandpa because he wasn't well, he immediately was like, is he going to get dead? He just like put the dots together and knew that this was a serious thing if I was getting on a plane. And he immediately was like, okay, you need to pack Motrin in your bag. You need to give him tea. You need to make sure he's drinking a lot of water. He immediately went into helper mode. And it broke my heart and also made me really proud of him. And then when he eventually did pass, I just sat him down and said, this is not my children's first loss. They've also lost their great-grandmother, who they knew well. And I just said, you know, grandpa's not here anymore. And he immediately looked at me and said, well, now we need to celebrate his life. It was literally the first thing out of his mouth. And I just continued to be blown away by the perceptiveness of kids, the thoughtfulness, and like how they can be wise if you give them the space to do so. Like, just blown away. Later that week, he told me that at recess, he had been thinking a lot about death. And I was like, cool, I fucked up my kid. Now he's just like sitting around at school thinking about death. But what he told me kind of blew my socks off. So he said, so I was thinking about death at recess today. And mommy, you know how when a person dies, like around the same time, another person is born? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, I think when their body doesn't work anymore, they just recycle the body and get a new one that's working, and they start all over again. And I was like, yeah, buddy, have you heard of a word called reincarnation? Like, who were you talking about that with at recess today? And he said, no, I was just thinking about it by myself. And I was like, yeah, well, what you were thinking about, actually, a lot of different cultures have ideas about that, and it's a really beautiful idea. And he said, this is great news, Mom. You can hire the new body to be your dad. And it made me smile, and it made me proud of his brain. And you know what? Best of all, my stepdad would have fucking loved this conversation. So I have been finding a lot of joy in my kids since coming back from sitting at his deathbed in Florida. Like, I'm just enjoying them, and I really want to hold on to that feeling for as long as possible. Obviously, they're driving me up the wall like they're kids, but I don't know. It's in some way, it's just like given me a perspective that should have been there all along, but I'm just enjoying them in a new way. Okay, moving on from Carrie's sad sack update. Other things to talk about. Let's talk about potty training, because in this house, we just finished a 3-day weekend potty training my younger child. Now, there's a lot of different thoughts on potty training. I have written extensively about it on the Substack. I have a 3-part series on it explaining the process that we use based on the book Oh Crap. People have thoughts and feelings about that. Do whatever you want. Every family is different. Every kid is different. I am not here to proselytize to you about how you navigate poop and pee in your house. But in this house, we were ready. I was ready to be done fighting with the diaper changes. My daughter's skin is super sensitive, and as she's like crazy mobile, she's getting eczema and like rashes from the pull-ups rubbing up against her. And she wants to be like her big bro. She wants to pee and poop on the potty. So we all kind of decided it was time. And I reread everything that I had written on the blog to remind myself, like, what am I doing here? Very proud of myself, super useful. I did, for the most part, follow the same approach that I did the first time, which is like no pants on at all until they figure out that they're pooping and peeing, and then pants, no underwear while they're like consolidating the basics. Today is day 4 of this journey. But we're talking about like 1 accident a day. We had 1 poop accident total. When you listen to this when you're older, baby girl, sorry for talking about poop, your poop specifically on the internet, but I hope you can appreciate this is a learning moment. The biggest difference in the whole thing, besides obviously this being a totally different child, is that I'm different. The first time around, I'm having fucking nightmares about potty training. I'm literally stressed out the fucking wazoo about potty training. This time around, I felt like I was running on adrenaline. Like I was so excited about it, and it was fun, and she did great, and it was just a totally different experience. I wasn't like driving her crazy talking about the potty nonstop. I set the timer. I reminded her to pee when the timer went off, but I wasn't like hounding her. It was just so much more chill. So today was her first day at preschool. She does like a half day at preschool since the potty training, and she didn't have an accident, and I couldn't be more proud of her. Is she going to have accidents? Yes. Is it the end of the world? No. I just keep reminding myself, is that pee on the carpet a lion chasing me and going to eat me alive? Or is it just some pee on the carpet that I can get out with some Folex or whatever your stain remover of choice is? It's the latter. I don't have nice shit in my house. And I think this is a situation where that's a real win for me, because I'll have nice shit maybe when I'm older, but I'm just not precious about the $200 carpet in my living room. I'll deal with it. So that's been a really exciting experience. And my husband was like, you are crushing this so hard. Like you're like having fun. This is crazy. What's going on? In the midst of all of this, I'm also like organizing the medicine drawers that look like they've been ransacked by a zombie apocalypse. I'm like doing all of this like spring cleaning type stuff in the middle of all of it. And then I go to open my period app, Flow, and it said, you're in your luteal phase. You might find that you're more productive than usual. That blew my fucking mind. I mean, when I was growing up, back in my day, you had a period or not on your period. Now we've got all sorts of phases. We're folliculating, we're ovulating, we're luteating, we're menstruating. And each one of those comes with its own personality traits. It could be that all of this is more pronounced as I am now a 40-year-old goddess and entering maybe perimenopause, who knows? But it really rocked my world how all of the adrenaline and productivity and positivity could in part be ascribed to what phase of my cycle I am. Like, I'd love to take a pill and stay in this part of my cycle long term if I could. Is that a possible thing? I don't think so. The person who would know about that is both my gynecologist, who I had my annual visit with yesterday, and the incredible expert, Dr. Suzanne Gilberg, who's going to be, her episode I think is going to air in a couple of weeks, who is a menopause and perimenopause goddess. Those questions, I mean, she just blew my mind. Her life story is fascinating, but also turns out, didn't know anything about perimenopause. I don't want to spoil it for you. But okay, a couple of takeaways, just a couple of quick takeaways from that. One, everybody's hormone levels are different to start with. So unless you are like tracking your hormone levels over time, going to a lab to get your hormones tested isn't necessarily going to be super helpful in telling you if they're high or you're low, because everybody's different. 1. 2, if you're curious about, am I in perimenopause, what's going on, just like old fashioned, take a journal of how you're feeling and what's going on. Those are like 2 brief things, but I don't want to spoil the whole thing because it's such a good episode. But I enjoyed it very much. And I also enjoyed talking to my gynecologist. I'm trying to decide if I should we'll talk a little bit about the sex question now, and then it'll come up again on that pod. But basically I was like, Doc, sex drive is in the shitter. What's going on? And she was like, well, first of all, your dad just died, so that could be a good explainer. And also, you're raising young kids. And I'm like, but that's like the case with everybody. Everybody is raising young kids in my social life. And she was like, yeah, I would say most of my practice is coming in complaining of low sex drive. And the way women's sex drive and men's sex drive is different is just like, it's not because you're choosing to be that way. It's just how you're wired. So we talked about all the different options around sex drive. My big takeaway was, for the girl who doesn't really like to be vulnerable with people, and I like to be a good student at the doctor, turns out crying at my doctor and like telling her exactly what I was thinking and feeling was exactly the right call. So I would encourage all of you to not be scared to show your feelings to your doctors if you're like me and have a problem with that. Also, I wonder if you guys can hear my kids screaming unhinged in the background. Unclear what they're screaming about, but pray for me when I leave this room. Okay. One of you asked me a question that honestly thrilled to be asked. Mahjong, what's the deal? Why is everyone obsessed? Well, circle round, kids. Let's talk about it. So mahjong in my family was something that my grandma did my whole life. She passed away at 94. And I genuinely believe playing mahjong regularly contributed to her longevity and well-being to the very end. I'm going to explain the general principles of the game in a minute, because I think some people get intimidated. They're like, is it math? Is it numbers? It's too confusing. I'm not going to be good at that. And I would like to disabuse you of that notion, because everyone can do it. It's absolutely doable. We'll get to that in a second, especially if I can do it, please. I'm not a competitive person. I don't need to win. I mean, like, I hold myself to a certain standard in life, but I'm not like out there trying to beat the next girl. It's why I don't do well with like shit talking and gossip and stuff like that. It doesn't make me feel comfy, because life is not a competition for me. Like, I'm here to cheer you on, and I try genuinely to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, quite often to a fault. But yeah, that means for mahjong, I'm like a great time. I'm a great invite. If you're in LA and you're doing a Maj game and you need a fourth, like, call me, baby. I'm going to come up, and I'm going to be a good chat, and I'll probably remember when it's my turn, but can't promise that. So the point of mahjong, for those who don't know, first of all, there are different types of mahjong. There's American rules, Chinese rules, Filipino rules. I'm going to miss some other ones, but each one has different rules. I am going to talk to you briefly about American mahjong, just in case you are curious. If you're not, like, save yourself the 2 minutes. But the general principle of the game is, so if you've ever played poker, you know the point of poker is to get a hand, right? So you have cards in your hand, you're trading out cards to try and build a hand. And then you throw your hand out and you're like, ta-da, look what I did. Sorry to the poker players out there. Clearly, I'm not one, really. The point of mahjong, American mahjong, is each year you get a card, and the card has on it a bunch of different combinations of the tiles. The tiles come in 4 suits, I think. I'm going to like fuck this up now that I'm talking about it. But the point is you get dealt a bunch of tiles, and from those tiles, you're trying to make one of the predetermined hands that's on your little card. You don't have to remember what the hands are. You just have to look down at your little card, look down at the tiles you've been given, and then, you know, there's some like dropping of tiles, picking up of tiles, trading of tiles. That's sort of the, quote, complicated part. But the basic point of the game is you're just trying to look at your little card, see what's in your hand, and see if you can match the two. There's obviously nuance and rules and whatever, form, fancy things like, I forget what some of my girls, Catherine, what do you call it? Like sandwiching your jokers. There's some classy little items like that don't actually, they're not rules, they're sort of culture and tradition. But the point is, this is an easy game. It doesn't involve math, and like, unless you're playing with some real sharks, like you're there to have a good time. So don't be intimidated by the characters or the number of tiles or whatever. If you have someone in your life and they play the game and you want to know how to play, get involved. Maybe one day, if there's interest, we'll do like a live broadcast from a mahjong game where I try, as somebody who's mediocre, to explain to other people how to play the game. So I hope that answers the basic question, why mahjong? People are looking for in real life connection. They want to spend time together. Maybe they don't want to sit at a restaurant at post bedtime, and they actually just want to have a light chat and have something to kind of come together around. Mahjong's perfect for that. So I'm happy to answer further questions, but basically we all want a reason to hang out that's not centered on alcohol. Maybe it is. Some mahjong people drink the wine, but as somebody who doesn't drink, it's a great opportunity for me to hang out socially without feeling like I need to order food that maybe isn't good for my tummy or drink booze, which isn't good for my tummy. Moving on, talking about good for my tummy, food stuff. So in my grief, my eating, with the Crohn's, I'm supposed to be a very clean eater and whatever. And not obviously, my eating has been in the shitter since my dad got sick. And that's something that I am, working on getting back to. I'm giving myself a lot of grace, and I'll get there when I get there. What I have noticed is a crazy uptick in GLP-1 targeted ads on my Instagram and anywhere else where targeted ads may be served. I don't have any problem with GLP-1s. You want to take them, you're interested in them. I really encourage people to look into it if you feel like it's a solution for you. Truly, I am of the opinion that as long as it's healthy and safe, do what you want. But the amount of targeting I am getting for this class of medication is kind of mind-boggling at this point, and I don't know what it means or why it's happening. I'm curious if it's happening to all of you, but it's driving me a little cuckoo, and I don't currently have interest in a GLP-1. I don't think I'm a great candidate for it, nor do I think I need it, but the incessant targeting of Ozempic and Roe and whatever else to me, along with the targeted hormone therapy ads, it's all just too much. Feeling very overwhelmed, all of that. So I would love to hear all of your experiences. But one thing that I did find recently that I have really been enjoying and appreciating is that because of the ubiquity of these GLP-1 drugs, I'm finding a lot of people are being very open about their GLP-1 use, and that I love. I love the transparency behind it. Not that everybody needs to share everything all of the time, but it does sort of level the cognitive playing field. If you're trying to lose a lot of weight and you're having a hard time doing that, and you see someone else and they're just shedding the weight, but you don't know what's behind it, it could make you feel really discouraged and frustrated. And the minute somebody owns how they're going about it, whether or not you choose to do that for yourself, at least you have a little bit of an explanation. So I am really appreciating the transparency behind it. Unless you're a celebrity and you're saying that you're not on Ozempic when you clearly are, that I think is irresponsible. I'm not saying everyone needs to disclose what medicines they're taking all of the time, even though I love to be an oversharer. But I just think if we're going to do it, let's share at least with our friends. Let's be honest, because it does help with the sanity. All right. So one of the questions that I got asked from my lovely team on the internet is, how did I know I was done having kids? For context, at this recent OB-GYN appointment I had, I literally asked her, what can I do besides like tying my tubes or vasectomy to really make sure I don't get pregnant, because I'm terrified of getting pregnant again. I don't want any more kids. Spoiler alert, she just said take my birth control, and if I'm worried, take a pregnancy test. So like pretty chill approach there. How do I know that I'm done having kids? I am taking the approach that I need to think about me now and in this moment, and what my absorptive capacity is and what I can handle, and not overly index for a future that is not here. I don't know what future Carrie can handle. I don't know what she wants. Yes, in theory, big families seem really fun and boisterous and amazing. I'm one of 3. And also, when I look at Carrie of today, my mental health, my well-being, my marriage, my relationships with my kids, I'm just not confident that I will be happy, contented, and able to handle it if I grow my family further. And for me, that feels good. Everybody has a different answer to this question. There is no right way to answer this question. But I just know, if the saying is like happy mom, happy kids, I want to focus this chapter on being the happy mom and not making more kids. I think that I'm really enjoying the prospect of, I'm enjoying my kids now, but I'm also enjoying the prospect of entering a different stage with them. And psychologically, I think it would be really hard to start over with a newborn. I know plenty of people who do that, and that third kid, just like me, gets brought along for the ride and everything's sort of fine. But there are other things in my life that I just want to focus on right now. So if you're thinking about, should I have more kids or am I done? One of the questions you could ask yourself is, how will I handle this, and how will my relationship handle this? You can't have more kids on the hope and dream that your kids will be best friends, because nobody knows that. That is not guaranteed. That's not a good reason, I think, to have more kids in the hopes that they're all friends. I think some people have an innate sense of being done or incomplete. And that's amazing if your sort of intuition is giving you an answer. But I don't know, spend time thinking about where you are on the project that is yourself. Are you feeling good about where you are? Are you feeling happy and contented and strong and calm? Or are there things you want to work on? For me, there's things I want to work on. And so I'm happy being done. And I feel good about that. I really feel good about that. Now, let's get a little nerdy for a minute while we wrap up. A lot of people who are interested in starting podcasts, friends or whatever, I'm always happy to give advice. And I encourage anybody who's passionate about something to go for it, because what do you have to lose? And there's this question like, what's the future of the podcasting world? Or what's the future of making money as a creator of any variety? And obviously I don't fucking know. But one thing I'll tell you is there's a lot of podcasts out there, and some of them are great and some of them are inconsistent, and that's fine because they serve different purposes. Not everybody is out trying to make a podcast a business. Some people are doing it because it's a passion and a project. Yes, I would love for this to develop into a sustainable business model. A lot of you have heard me talk about that. I'm not going to pretend that this is just something that I'm spending an immense amount of time on just as a hobby. It's to me more than that. But when I think about the future of how we connect and make connections and interact, I'm stuck between two places, virtual and IRL. So obviously this pod gives me this insane, incredible opportunity to it's pretty one-sided, but hang out with my friends who don't live near me anymore, like Becca, if you're listening, or Erin, or, any of my friends who are listening from far away. It's like a way that you guys get to hear whatever's going on in my crazy little head. And I love that. And also there's something to be said for that mahjong experience, or that mom's night out experience, or whatever it is that brings you into the real world and lets you quote unquote touch grass. Because the more time we spend on the internet, the more shitty we feel about ourselves. And wouldn't it be wonderful if there was a way of the internet being an off-ramp to the real world? With the economy in the absolute shitter, with the job market extremely uncertain, how are we feeling connected and how are we supporting each other? I don't know the answer, but I do feel like in-person connection is part of it. So that's something that I hope to be able to bring some sort of mother life answer to in this next year. Some of that just requires bravery on my part and encouragement on your part. Like, tell me that you want a mother life hang and I'm going to make it happen. But, you know, there's some part of me that's like, what if I make the event and nobody comes? That would be so embarrassing. But I choose to believe that the more time we spend with people in real life, whether it's going for a walk, playing mahjong, dancing to 90s hip hop at your local dive bar, the more we are legitimately nourished, like the real food, rather than the artificial hyper-processed stuff that we find online. So there's a lot that we've talked about. I cannot believe I've been talking for this long. But there was a lot to cover. You guys had some great questions. But I do want to know from you a couple of things, right? I want to know, how do you want to keep our relationship spicy? How do you want to keep it exciting? How do you want to keep it engaged? I'm here for you. I'm here for me, but I'm here for us. So let me know. I want to know how you want to continue to engage. If you're in the LA area, would you ever come to an event? And I also want to know what you want me to talk about next month. This has been really fun, if not a little lonely being by myself, but I feel like there's been a lot to discuss. So thank you for being on the journey with me. As always, we have an incredible guest episode next week. I'm so excited for you to listen to it. Let's rock and roll, people. Life is a roller coaster. There's highs and there are lows, but it's never boring. That is for sure. I'll see you next week. Thanks for being here. Team, I need your help. If you love it here, please like and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Subscribe to the Substack for full access to this episode's show notes and join the discussion. And of course, follow me on Instagram at mutha, mutha.life for a daily look at all things mother. Thanks for listening. Be sure to tune in next week for another Chat in the Closet. This podcast was produced by Mother Life, music by Ronan Landa. See you next time.